continue looking at some examples of multiplication properties of exponents. If you think back to what we talked about in our original set of notes, we had the power of a product property. And what the power of a product property says is that if you have a product being raised to a power, you can distribute. I say distribute, but I say it cautiously. We kind of give our exponent to the product in the parentheses. So for example, if you have 2 times 3 to the 6, that's the same thing as saying 2 to the 6 times 3 to the 6. So let's see how we can practice this. For our first example here, we have the product 3 times 4 to the 12th. Yes, in all actuality, we follow order of operations. You can rewrite this as 12 to the second. And if you do, 12 times 12 is 144. That's okay. But let me show you how the property works when, maybe just show you how it works so you know what to do when you have a variable. Because this is a product, because it's multiplication, we can rewrite this as 3 to the second times 4 to the second. 3 to the second, 3 times 3 is 9, 4 times 4 is 16. 9 times 16 ends up being 144. So you get the same answer either way. But it's important to understand this way because sometimes these will be variables and not integers. Let's look at this example. Remember, this actually means 3 times x times y to the 4th. And we forget sometimes that this means to multiply. So this is like saying 3 to the 4th times x to the 4th times y to the 4th. Now read the directions when you're given your problems, because if they say write your answer as a power, this is fine. My guess is that in this case it would say simplify, so you want to take it out as far as you can. Since 3 to the 4th really isn't that big of a number, 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 1 more 3 would be 81. I would probably write this as 81 x to the 4th, y to the 4th. Let's look at another example. Notice in this one we have the product of negative 3y raised to the second. Again, since it's multiplication, we can rewrite this as negative 3 to the second times y to the second. Be very careful about using a calculator. Some calculators will not recognize negative 3 to the second as negative 3 times negative 3. It will think of it as 3 times 3 and then make the product negative. That's why I have it in parentheses here. I know that a negative 3 times a negative 3 should be a positive 9, and then y squared stays y squared. Let's compare that to this one. Look how these two are different. In this case, our negative 3 falls within the parentheses. In this case, it falls outside the parentheses. If you'd like, you can think of this as a negative 1 out front. In that case, you have to do what's in parentheses first. So we're going to have a negative, and then I'm going to go 3 to the second times y to the second. Again, that property says that as long as it's multiplication inside the parentheses, you can raise both parts to the exponent. I would get negative 3 times 3 is 9y squared. So you could leave it just like this, or since it's like saying a negative 1 times this, we would get a negative 9y squared. Again, we're not distributing or anything like that because it's all multiplication. So just be careful and make sure you understand, especially where our negatives come into play. If you have a negative 3 squared, you know your answer should be positive. But if you just have a 3 squared with a negative hanging around outside the parentheses, you have to make it a negative 9.